Meeting remotely by video conference. Tonight's meeting is available to the public on Channel 8 and through live streaming on Broomfield's website. Public participation is encouraged by calling 855-695-3744 and pressing *3 to be placed in the queue for comment. Please note, if you want to speak on more than one item on tonight's agenda, you will need to press *3 each time to be placed back in the queue. Public comment will be limited to 90 minutes total per item. The first 1 to 15 participants in the queue have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 to 25 participants in the queue have 2 minutes to speak. If time remains, the next participants in the queue will have 1.5 minutes to speak until we reach 90 minutes. Again, the number is 855-695-3744. Don't forget to press *3. And you'll be placed in the queue. Screeners will ask callers for their first and last name, neighborhood, and the agenda item the caller would like to comment on. Please call several minutes before the agenda item and press *3 to ensure you are in the queue for comment. Public comments will also be taken during the public comment section for topics not on tonight's agenda using the process previously outlined. Again, the number is 855-695-3744 and press *3 to be placed in the queue. The City Council meeting is called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson. Castriata.
Here, Anderson is having tech problems.
Okay, thank you. Groom.
Here.
Hinkle.
Here.
Jazerski.
Here.
Law Evans.
Here.
Lim.
Here.
Lindstedt.
Here.
Schaff. Tessier.
Here.
Anderson. We'll try again.
Here.
A quorum is present. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance
To the
to
flag
the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all. In an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, I'm going to ask council to please utilize the video conferencing tools to raise their hand for comment or when making a motion or a second. I will call on the first hand raised to state the motion and the second hand raised to make the second as appropriate. I ask council members to limit their comments to 5 minutes. Abby will be assisting with the timekeeping and will provide council members with a notification via video conferencing chat when 1 minute remains. Please ensure you are on mute when not speaking. If a council member needs to leave the meeting, please inform me before doing so. We will plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We will begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for the meeting. Councilmember Law Evans indicated that she is recusing herself from items 7E and 7F. Therefore, I would like to see if there's an objection to considering this evening's consent agenda in 3 parts. 7A through D, items 7E and F, and item 7G, which is executive session request requires 2/3 vote. If there's an objection, we can move item 7E and 7F from the consent agenda to council business for consideration. Seeing no objection, we will consider the consent agenda in 3 parts. Does any member of the council have any additional comments or questions regarding this evening's agenda? This evening, we do have a proclamation declaring April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the proclamation on my behalf.
Proclamation declaring April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month in the City and County of Broomfield, Colorado. Whereas child development is the foundation for community development and economic prosperity, And whereas children are our future workforce, leaders, neighbors, and community members. And whereas research shows when children experience prolonged and significant adverse childhood experiences, such as poverty, abuse, or neglect without adequate adult support to buffer their experiences, it becomes toxic and impacts their brain architecture. And the basic architecture of the brain is constructed through an ongoing process that begins before birth and continues into adulthood. And whereas our community must address child maltreatment as a public health concern and develop strategies as a community to strengthen families. And whereas neighbors, parents, and professionals alike have the power to create great childhoods today. And whereas the City and County of Broomfield believes community action and collaboration are crucial elements of child abuse prevention. We act in partnership with CASA of Adams and Broomfield counties, Broomfield Early Childhood Council, Mental Health Partners, Community Reach Center, Ralston House, A Precious Child, Broomfield Health and Human Services, the Broomfield Library, Broomfield Recreation Services, Broomfield Police, and all community stakeholders to prevent child maltreatment. And whereas all this month we encourage individuals, government institutions, businesses, community associations in our community to show support for thriving communities, thriving families, and thriving children by planting a pinwheel garden at your home, school, office, or community event, and help make great childhoods happen in the City and County of Broomfield. Therefore, Patrick Quinn, Mayor of the City and County of Broomfield, hereby declares and proclaims the month of April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month in Broomfield.
Thank you. We will proceed with public comments. If there's anyone who would like to be heard to discuss this proclamation, please press *3. State your first and last name and neighborhood for the record. I'm not noting anybody in the queue. So we will say, does any member of council want to have any comments on this? If so, please raise your hand. I need to get over to that. I think that's right. You know, noting no raised hands. I don't think that, I mean, there's an appreciation of this by every member of council, I'm sure, but we do have a pretty busy agenda. So we'll proceed to public comments for things that are not on the agenda. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters other than the items already listed on this evening's agenda. To be placed in the queue for comment, please call 855-695-3744 and press *3. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. And I'm not noting anybody in the queue or in any place. So we'll go ahead and move on to council's community and event updates. Are next. Does any member of council have an update this evening? Mayor Pro Tem. You're muted.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to recognize yesterday we celebrated International Women's Day, and I just wanted to give a shout out to all the amazing women that I am privileged to work with at the City and County of Broomfield. Colorado has historically offered women more breakthrough opportunities, and our current City Council and City and County leadership are prime examples of that. Look at us now. To think our official governing documents used to only use male pronouns just up until a couple of years ago. So Broomfield has come a long way. Thank you all. I'm proud to serve with you.
And I do want to note for the record and for the community that Devin Schaff, our council member Devin Schaff, has joined the meeting. Any other community or event updates? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. The council's consideration of the consent agenda is next. We will review this evening's consent agenda in 3 separate parts as discussed earlier. Items 7 through D, items 7E and 7F, items that Councilmember Law Evans is recusing herself. Item 7G, request for an executive session that requires an individual motion. Following the clerk's reading of consent agenda items 7A through 7D, we will ask for public comments, then we'll do the same for item 7E and 7F, and then for item 7G. Will the clerk please read agenda items 7A, 7B, 7C, and 7D by title?
7A, approval of minutes, regular meeting of February 23rd, 2021, council meeting, and the March 2nd, 2021 special meeting. 7B, resolution number 2021-49, authorizing and approving the purchase of 1 mechanical street sweeper. Resolution number 2021-47, authorizing and approving the 4th Amendment to the simulcast dispatching system agreement by and between the City and County of Broomfield and the Adams County Communications Center for radio communications. And item 7D, resolution number 2021-39, authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the City and County of Broomfield and Boulder County for a US 287 bus rapid transit feasibility study.
Okay, we'll now proceed with public comments. Does any member of the public have comments on this, on these four agenda items? Please press *3 and state your first and last name and neighborhood for the record. I'm not seeing any activity. Okay, so we'll go to members of council. Does any member of council have comments on these four agenda items? Raise your hand. Not noting any. Is there a motion? Is there a motion that recommendations contained in the staff reports for agenda items 7A, 7B, 7D, C, and 7D be approved? Councilmember Schaaf.
So moved.
Councilmember Groom.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Guzerski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaaf,
Yes.
Tessier.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Will the clerk please read? I guess I'm gonna go ahead and ask Councilmember Livens to turn her camera off now. I'll note that later. So will the clerk please read agenda items?
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask, it was my understanding that I'm actually supposed to sign off. Maybe if we could have Ms. Rogers clarify?
Yeah, it says here that you need to turn your camera off, but I think you're supposed to sign up. Well, Nancy, in the virtual age, what does she do?
Right. And
Hold on. Good evening, everyone. In the significant interest, conflict of interest section of the ethics code, the council member is expected to walk out and to leave. It's not as clear in the appearance of impropriety portion of the code, so I do think there's a little bit of an option here. I do remember in the recent past, Councilmember Tessier had recused herself from a matter and did actually virtually leave the meeting, and then we contacted her to rejoin. So I definitely think the past practice of this council is that Councilmember Law Evans would not only turn off her camera, but also leave the meeting, and then we'll let you back in when we're done.
Okay, well, and Liz, I'll text you.
Okay,
Mayor, I'm happy to do that.
Or yeah, Colleen, if you would text her, it'd be appreciated.
fair enough. All right,
Okay.
I'm signing off now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, will the clerk please read agenda items 7E and 7F by title?
Item 7E, resolution number 2021-36, authorizing an agreement between the City and County of Broomfield and the Colorado Department of Transportation through the 2020 through 2023 Transportation Improvement Program for Industrial Lane Bikeway Phase 2. And item 7F, resolution number 2021-37, authorizing an agreement between the City and County of Broomfield and the Colorado Department of Transportation through the 2020 through 2023 Transportation Improvement Program for Industrial Lane and Nickel Street / Commerce Street intersection operational improvements.
Okay, we will now proceed with public comments. Does any member of the public have comments on this agenda item? Please press *3 and state your first and last name and neighborhood for the record. I'm not noticing anybody anywhere. So we'll go ahead and move on to, does any member of council have comments or questions on this agenda item? Councilmember Schaaf.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm glad to see these are coming forward. I think these are a big improvement. I want to thank the DRCOG Broomfield Forum, Transportation Forum, for the approval of these projects. And I mean, this is this is really huge. I mean, anybody that has biked down this, let alone walked down Industrial Lane, knows that this is treacherous. So I'm so excited to see these going forward. This is going to really help our multimodal transportation system within Broomfield, especially down near Industrial Lane. So I'm excited to see these come forward, and I'm excited to pass them tonight. So thank you, colleagues.
Okay, we'll move forward with, is there a motion that the recommendations contained in the staff reports for agenda items 7E and 7F be approved? Councilmember Schaaf.
So moved.
Councilmember Groom.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
Lot Evans,
She
She recused
She
herself.
recused herself.
Thank you. Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaaf,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Mayor Pro Tem, would you let Liz know? We'll wait a minute. Okay. Success. So we will go to item 7G, a request for an executive session on March 16th. We will, and I guess I'll go ahead and go to public comments on this before we read it, although that seems a little strange. If there's any, this is an executive session to discuss baselines MGDA. Is there any public comment on this, on having the executive session on March 16th? If so, I will recognize you. I'm not noting anybody. And I'll ask if council members, does any member of council have comments or questions on this before we read the motion? So will the request for an executive session require an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members present? Will the city and the county attorney please read the recommended motion for item 7G?
That an executive session be held on March 16th, 2021, following the regular city council meeting for legal advice and in order to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, develop strategy, and to direct negotiators, all relating to the baseline MGDA as permitted by section 24-6-402 sub 4B and E of the Colorado Revised Statutes.
Is there a motion? Mayor Pro Tem?
So moved.
Councilmember Groom?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
Lot Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaaf,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Today I'm just going to make a comment that we need to, it seems kind of awkward to ask for comments if I haven't discussed it. So we might want to talk about how we do that in the script going forward, where we might not summarize it. I just don't want to forget that next time. This evening, the Board of Social Services will review the expenditures and electronic benefit transfers for October through December 2020. The meeting of the Board of Social Services is called to order. I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Anderson,
Here.
Castriata,
Here.
Groom,
Here.
Hinkle,
Here.
Jezierski,
Here.
Law Evans,
Here.
Lim,
Here.
Lindstedt,
Here.
Schaff,
Here.
Tessier.
Here.
A quorum is present. The board members have a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask staff to summarize.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, Dan Casey, Director of Human Services, will introduce and walk through this item. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the board. Today I have in front of you resolution to acknowledge the review of social services expenditures for the final quarter and the calendar year of 2020. This memo requests acknowledgement of the Board of Social Services for social services expenditures for the fourth quarter of 2020. The body of the memo provides information to the board detailing social service activities over the fourth quarter of 2020. The memo reports sources and uses of funds for social services programs and self-sufficiency, child, adult, and family services. The memo reports the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on client benefits. Just a few highlights from the memo that I would like to share. In 2020, our TANF, which is Colorado Works or Temporary Aid for Needy Families, we saw an increase of about 52% in payments, which was a total of $312,000. And we had 20% increase in households in that same program. In our food assistance program, otherwise known as supplemental nutrition assistance, we're averaging about $488,000 a month through 2020 in benefit payments. And that came out to just over $5 million for the year of 2020. Pretty significant increase over the prior year. And that's an increase of 19% households as well. CCAP is kind of a strange one for us. The number of clients went down, but the amount of payments made in that program went up, and that was for pandemic-related payments for absences and parental fees. So again, a 30% increase in payments, but the number of clients went down, just not using childcare, and the folks that did have absences were paid. And then LEAP, which is our low-income energy assistance program, we extended the period, the state extended the period for LEAP, and we saw about a 27% increase in households there. We saw about 26% in January increase in applications this year over last year. So we're getting a lot more applications there. And then just for, to put it in perspective as far as workload goes, our call center and our self-sufficiency team, which is our SNAP, TANF, CCAP benefits programs, throughout the course of the year, they saw about a 20% increase in volume. And then our workforce center, which deals with unemployment and other related issues, saw about a 400% increase in call volume this year. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to stand by and answer questions.
We will now proceed with public comments. If there's anyone who would like to be heard, please press *3. State your first and last name and neighborhood for the record. Not noting any, we will go to questions for the board. Our next, are there any comments or questions from the board? Board member Tessier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give a shout out to this team. The way they pulled together during COVID and the way they partnered in the community is nothing short of remarkable. I feel so blessed to be here saying this about this particular section of your team, Dan. They have just really, with grace and ease and despite COVID, the way they handled themselves and partnered in the community, my goodness, I'm so grateful. So I just wanted to note the professionalism and the pivoting that needed to happen in order for your team to just really, really pull through. I can't say it enough. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make sure that I pass that on to my team, Board Member Tessier.
Yeah, note that there was a lot of heads nodding there as well, Dan. So, so any other questions or comments from the board? So the next is the Board of Social Services consideration of proposed resolution number 2020-50-BSS. Will the clerk please read proposed resolution number 2020-50-BSS by title?
Resolution number 2021-50-BSS, acknowledging review of expenditures in electronic benefit transfers for October, November, and December 2020.
Is there a motion? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that resolution number 2021-50-BSS be adopted.
Councilmember Groom, or Board Member Groom.
Sure. Second.
Yeah. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
La Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Seeing that there is no further business before the Board of Social Services, the meeting is adjourned. This evening, we have 2 items for the Board of Health's review. The meeting of the Board of Health is called to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Anderson,
Here.
Castriata,
Here.
Groom,
Here.
Hinkle,
Here.
Jezierski,
Here.
La Evans,
Here.
Lim,
Here.
Lindstedt,
Here.
Schaff,
Here.
Tessier.
Here.
A quorum is present. I wanted to take a minute as we were doing our script review today. It hit me that a year ago at this meeting date, I was not here. I was in Washington, D.C. The only meeting that the Mayor Pro Tem has gotten to run since I became mayor was that meeting. I returned home a day early. I think Councilmember Schaff was with me and, in Washington, D.C. at the time. It was the last meeting we had as a public, so it's been, it's been a year. And I guess I just wanted to acknowledge that. So I want to make a couple of comments, and I'm sure it's on behalf of the entire council and staff. I want to take a moment to recognize that it's been 1 year since we had our last in-person council meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been a year with 74 devastating deaths of our own Broomfield residents. We want to remember and honor those who we lost, their families, and the thousands of people in our community who fought the virus themselves, and for some that are still battling the lingering implications. For those not impacted directly, we all know are those deeply affected by the far-reaching impacts of the novel virus because of closures, job loss, virtual schooling, and so on. This community has stepped up for one another, and I'm proud of it because you and your personal accountability and respect for your neighbors, Broomfield has been far better off in fighting the quickly spreading disease than many other communities. We have followed public health guidance. Businesses have taken extra measures to protect customers, and we continue to show up for each other's in the ways many of us don't see. I've said before, and I believe now more than ever, Broomfield will emerge from this pandemic stronger and better because we did it together. We will now continue with the items under the Board of Health. Board members have a copy of the agenda and memorandum, which staff will summarize.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, we have another department that's going to provide an update that was heavily impacted. So the second half of Human and Health and Human Services, Jason Balling, Director of Public Health, will walk us through the COVID-19 update. Jason?
Thanks, Ms. Hoffman. Sorry, and good evening, board members. I was on mute. We provided an in-depth presentation yesterday that's again linked to the council agenda. Just want to hit a couple key highlights. As we shared yesterday, due to our case incidents, 1 week case incidents per 100,000, we have been moved back to level yellow capacity restrictions by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. That takes effect on March 10th and at 6 a.m. If we put a lot of stuff out through our communications department to alert the public and also to alert businesses. The back to business certified businesses can continue to operate in level blue as we move to level yellow, while other businesses must comply with the level yellow restrictions. Some of the key differences is while most sectors will still be able to operate at 50% capacity, the number of people permitted per room activity for restaurants, gyms, organized sports, and events will be reduced back to the level yellow limit. So it was 50% capacity in these areas, both in yellow and in blue, but when you were in blue, you could have more individuals in those settings. The other thing I highlighted yesterday is the B117 variant, better known as the UK variant, is spreading throughout Colorado and nationally. It has a doubling time of every 10 days. We're tracking it here in Broomfield. We had 6 additional variant cases in the past 7 days. We'll continue to track that, and my full assumption is that due to the samples that we're testing and sequencing, genetic sequencing, which is less than 5%, we're probably underreporting how much of the variant is occurring in the metro region. But on to some good news. Our vaccine eligibility expanded to phase 1B3 on March 5th. We've been scaling up to increase, to respond to our increased vaccine allocations. We're fully anticipating by mid to late March, we're going to see a dramatic increase in allocations to Broomfield. A couple ways we're doing that is we're continuing our current partnering efforts with healthcare practices, pharmacies, federally qualified health centers. But additionally, we're now partnering with Thornton Fire, who will be able to provide vaccines to Broomfield residents, and they've stood up this program for Thornton residents. And in addition to that, we're looking at standing up a mid-scale clinic that we could do at the First Bank Center and run roughly 1,000 people through in 1 day. So we're planning on increasing our capacity to meet that demand and vaccinate people as quickly and safely as possible. Another thing we know is vaccine hesitancy and equity continues to be an issue. So we are partnering with community leaders and ambassadors from affected communities to help address vaccine equity. That includes getting out key messaging and talking to trusted leaders within those communities, specifically the Latinx community, among others. And then finally, the good news to end with is 86% of our Broomfield 70+ residents and 92% of our 60 to 69-year-old residents have received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. So we're again leading the metro region in that area. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, we'll go to public comment next. If there's anyone from the public that wants to ask questions or be heard on the COVID update, please press *3. I don't note anybody there, so I'll go to board members. Is there any member of the board that has any questions or comments? Raise your hand and you'll be recognized. Councilmember Lim?
Yes. We express our appreciation to the staff in public health for all of their efforts over the past year. What I wanted to note was the huge percentage of 70 plus and 65 to 69 plus residents who have been vaccinated. The system is not the easiest thing to navigate. Having tried to register myself now where you have to register multiple places to get the vaccine. So I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of the residents to become vaccinated by registering multiple sites and making the effort, some to drive large distances to get their vaccines. So that's going to get us to where we want to go in Broomfield and throughout the state, where we have more and more people vaccinated. So I'm certainly appreciative to staff too for standing up the Thornton site and considering the First Bank Center in the future. So that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a comment and a question. Jason, the comment is that, you and I have talked a lot about it. There was an interesting article in the New York Times this morning about the 50 different states and how they're going through the hierarchy. Because part of, and now that they're going where they have underlying conditions, it's created a whole new level of complexity for public health, and Colorado's doing that. And so I want to say, I share Gene's, I call it, as did the New York Times, it's like Hunger Games, trying to get your name on that list. Although you've got 92% of it, so you guys, you have to be doing well, and I have my shot now. And so with that, I did have a question. I don't see Jeff on the line. I was going back and looking at the notes, so maybe Jason, you can answer this. When we had 49 people that have been approved under the Back to Business 5-star program, and the memo I was looking at said that there were 54 that have applied. So did we have 4 or 5 that we didn't vote on last week because we're blue anyway? Or do you know, Jason or Deb?
I'll turn that over to Deb, Mayor, since I've been part of those meetings.
Thanks for the question, Mayor Quinn. Deb Fettersville, Public Health Department. I believe that the difference is there are 5 inspections that are waiting to be scheduled or have been scheduled. And so once those inspections are completed, then those applications will come to the administrative committee for review.
So for the public's information, really, once we went to blue, there was no advantage necessarily being in the Back to Business. Now that we're at yellow, there is an advantage. So I anticipate, and I see Galena, I anticipate we'll have a meeting then on Friday. And okay, so we'll go back to, and hopefully be at that point be 54 businesses that qualify for Back to Business. So we'll go ahead and then move on to item 9B, which is the final item for the Board of Health's consideration this evening, is proposed resolution number 2021-26-BH, appointing Dr. Maines to the Mile High Regional Emergency Medical and Trauma Advisory Council. Board members have the copy of the agenda memorandum, which staff will summarize.
Yes, board members, this is an item that we bring to you every year. Due to an IGA that we participate in the Mile High Regional Emergency Medical and Trauma Advisory Committee, also known as RETEC. It's comprised of representatives from Arapahoe, Adams, Broomfield, Denver, Douglas, and Elbert counties. And the idea is to coordinate resources, equipment, and facilities around emergency medical and trauma services. Dr. Maines, along with Lindsay McGee and Ross Riley, are currently serving as Broomfield representatives. Dr. Maines has been on the board for a significant period of time and is a former chair and is very interested in continuing to serve in this role. And actually the committee was very interested, the RETAC committee, in having him continue in the role as well. So with that, we would recommend his reappointment to the RETAC committee. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. We'll proceed with public comments. If there's anyone who would like to be heard, please press *3. State your first and last name and neighborhood for the record. Not noting any, we'll go to board member questions. Are there any questions from the board? Next is the board's consideration of the Board of Health's consideration of proposed resolution number 2021-26-BH. Will the clerk please read proposed resolution number 2021-26-BH by title?
Resolution number 2021-26-BH, appointing Dr. Charles Maines to the Mile High Regional Emergency Medical and Trauma Advisory Council.
Is there a motion? Councilmember Groom, or Board Member Groom.
I move that resolution number 2021-26-BH be adopted.
Board Member Tessier.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chizurski,
Yes.
La Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Hinkle.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. There is no further business before the Board of Health. The meeting is therefore adjourned. There is no business before the Broomfield Housing Authority this evening. So we will move to the business section of our council agenda this evening. Before the council reviewed items 11A. Oh, I got to move on here. This is in case we move stuff. Danae is very good at giving me all sorts of instructions, which is helpful. Okay, so we are on item 11A, and we don't have 7E and 7F coming up as business items. So our first item under council business this evening is the public hearing and council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2021-56, authorizing and approving a 9498 square foot medical office within the Mid-Cities PUD plan area. I will declare the public hearing open. We will follow the city standard public health hearing procedures. First, staff will present a summary of the proposal. Next, we will have the applicant's presentation if applicable. Then we will ask for public comments and final comments from the applicant. And finally, questions from the city council. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which staff will summarize.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, Anna Burton-Zetti, Director of Planning, will introduce the item. The applicant is here to have a brief presentation and entertain council questions. Anna?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Anna Burton-Zetti, Planning Director. If we could have the next slide, please. The application this evening is for a site development plan for a medical office building on a piece of property that's just over an acre in size within the Mid-Cities PUD area. Next slide, please. The lot is bordered to the north by Colton Road, and commercial properties exist on the east and west. There is a multifamily development to the south, as well as residential in the town of Superior to the north across Colton Road. The approved PUD plan for Mid-Cities lists medical office buildings as a permitted use in this location, so the proposal is consistent with the PUD. Next slide, please. The Brimfield Comprehensive Plan designation for this property is mixed use commercial, and this designation is consistent with a medical office use. Next slide, please. The site development plan includes an approximately 9,498 square foot medical office building. The proposed building will be central to the parcel, with patient parking located to the north of the building and employee parking located to the south. The applicant will be providing conduit to accommodate 2 future EV charging stations and is also providing bicycle parking spaces. The proposed site includes approximately 27% open area, which meets the requirements of the PUD plan. Landscaping is primarily within the parking areas and along the property lines. The applicant has requested 2 variances, which are identified as key issues by staff in the staff memorandum. The first variance is from the required side yard setbacks. The Mid-Cities PUD plan specifies side yard setbacks must be 20 feet for this area of the PUD, unless there is approval granted by the Architectural Control Committee for Mid-Cities as well as the City and County of Broomfield. The applicant has requested a 10-foot setback along both of the property lines and worked with the Architectural Control Committee and city staff to provide enhanced landscaping along the side property lines to mitigate the setback variance. The second variance is from the parking standards of the Broomfield Municipal Code. The municipal code requires a total of 64 spaces for the site because of a ratio of 1 space for every 150 feet of medical office. The applicant has requested a variance from that requirement to provide a total of 51 spaces, which is about 1 space for every 186 square feet of total building area. The applicant has stated that approximately 2,000 square feet of the building will only be used as a conference space during times when the medical office is not in use. Additionally, staff has completed some research into the parking requirements in neighboring communities and existing parking studies, which support the applicant's variance request, and additional detail was provided in the staff memorandum. Next slide, please. The proposed architecture and materials are consistent in character with the rest of the Mid-Cities commercial developments. The building incorporates neutral tones and is consistent, as I mentioned, with some of the other materials utilized on adjacent structures. The proposed building will be approximately 22 feet in height at its tallest. Next slide, please. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the application on February 8th of this year and recommended approval with a vote of 5-2. There were no conditions. All of the public notice requirements have been met, and staff has not received any comments regarding the proposal. Staff only identified the 2 key issues, which I've already covered, regarding the 2 setback and parking variances. And that concludes staff's presentation this evening. As was mentioned, the applicant also has a presentation.
Okay, we'll then go to the presentation by the applicant. Just as we encourage staff to keep their presentations brief, I ask the applicant to be concise in their presentation. Will the applicant's representative please identify themselves for the record prior to beginning their brief presentation this evening?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Taylor Gertz with IMEG Engineers, here to give brief presentation, and then I will pass it on to Dr. Perkins for a short introduction. Anna covered our site plan and building plans very well here. Just want to highlight on a couple of things noted, questions that have come up over our review process here. We do have 27 parking stalls noted in the north portion of the parking of the site, and 24 parking stalls noted in the southern portion, or the staff parking, as we're calling it. We have requested a variance for the parking request, as we are not meeting the current City of Broomfield requirements. I think this has been justified through research by city staff, as well as our own. And this includes an expected staff and patient occupancy loading that we've worked through with Dr. Perkins and his staff. Sort of what we've determined is the maximum staff volume calculation would be a total of 4 providers, 6 nurses, 2 receptionists, and a total of, that would be, and 19 administrative personnel. This creates a total of 31 staff, and then at any given time, the maximum patient count would be 12. That gives us a total of 43 parking stalls, assuming everyone's driving their own separate car and going to the medical office building. So the 43, that leaves 8 open parking stalls. So we feel confident that the 51 stalls that we're providing will be sufficient, even at our maximum occupancy loading for the building. And it also did mention that we have a 2,000 square foot conference area that will be used in off-peak hours for staff meetings, monthly staff meetings. And that's also included in that 9,498 gross square feet. So I think that's where some of that parking skew comes about. Additionally, we did a trip generation based on Institute of Transportation Engineers, because we like to get technical with everything here and justify it. And we've determined that based on the size of this medical office use, there's going to be worst case scenario in the AM peak hour, 21 vehicles entering or leaving the site. So the 27 stalls that are provided for patients is plenty more than any traffic that we anticipate. Another comment that we received was some additional landscaping that was requested to buffer the site from Colton Road. We did review that and felt that perhaps adding another tree wouldn't be sufficiently adequate and would make that area just look too busy. So we decided not to add any additional trees based upon our approval letter from Flatiron Architectural Control Committee for the landscape plan in front of you. Another question that has come up is the pedestrian circulation. If you wouldn't mind going, flipping, I think it's the third page on the screen, please. Let's go one more, please. So we created this exhibit of the commercial area along Colton Road. As you can see, our site is transposed on this exhibit, this aerial exhibit, showing where it sits in this little corridor, where you can see the primary walkway and crosswalks are really Colton Road, and that the interior access points, there's one for Walgreens, there's one for the daycare, Firestone, and then we're actually in conjunction with Firestone and the vacant fast food restaurant, providing 2 additional spur access points for pedestrians. We feel that that's a reasonable amount of pedestrian flow to promote pedestrians and bicyclists to actively get to our site if needed. The last comment I have, or last statement, is there was a question about location of our trash enclosure. We did reach out to Waste Management, discussed, we showed them this site plan, and they confirmed that the maneuvers of their trash vehicles, they would not have any concern with approaching our trash enclosure, picking up the refuse and backing out of the site. And I can give you other examples of where that may occur if needed. But hearing it from the folks that actually pick up the trash, they felt comfortable and confident that they could do that. So, Dr. Perkins, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Taylor. Mayor Quinn, Mayor Pro Tem Castriata, and council members. On behalf of Colorado Center for Arthritis and Osteoporosis, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you this evening regarding our plans to build a medical office building in Broomfield. I'm joined today by several of my partners at CCAO, including Dr. Joe Lutt, Dr. Shiraz Moinadine, Dr. Jill Gibson, Dr. Pratik Chaudhry, Dr. Nicole Swavely, Dr. Carson Maynard, our practice administrator Denise Qualls, and our executive assistant Katie Schaffenberg. My personal connection with Broomfield goes back to the summer of 1996 when I drove my family from Baltimore, Maryland to our new home on Dharma Avenue in Broomfield. It was in Broomfield that my family and I first came to identify ourselves as Coloradans. 2 weeks later, I started my rheumatology fellowship at the University of Colorado. Back then, we lived in the city of Broomfield and in Adams County. Our children attended Adams 12 schools in Broomfield. The county of Broomfield was aspirational back then. I certainly don't need to tell all of you that a lot has changed in the intervening 25 years. I founded CCAO in 1998, initially in Boulder. However, Broomfield was always in my heart. When in 2010, we had the opportunity to expand our growing practice outside of Boulder County, Broomfield was an obvious choice. For the last 11 years, CCAO has had an office on 6th Avenue. We have grown with Broomfield, and we care for many of Broomfield's residents who suffer from arthritis, osteoporosis, and autoimmune disease. Our Broomfield practice quickly became our top revenue generator. When we realized that we were outgrowing our leased office on 6th Avenue and needed to expand, we made the decision to cross the Rubicon of commercial property ownership. Broomfield just felt right to us as the location of our first office. We specifically targeted buying and building in Broomfield to the point that we actually passed up opportunities in neighboring communities. Over the year-long process of designing our first real office from the ground up, we have appreciated the helpful and constructive input that the City Council, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Architectural Committee have made. Your suggestions have made a great medical office design even better. We're excited tonight to have presented our finished plans to the City Council for your review. Before I mute my mic, I want to express on behalf of my partners and our medical practice how excited we are to continue and strengthen our long-standing relationship and partnership with the City and Council of Broomfield. In a sense, the last 11 years have been a long courtship. Tonight, with your blessing, it's time to tie the knot. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Does that conclude the applicant's presentation?
Yes, that does.
Okay, we'll go to public comments. If there is anyone who would like to be heard, please press *3. State your first and last name and neighborhood for the record. I'm not noting any. So we'll go to questions from City Council members. Any questions from City Council? Please raise your hand and you'll be identified. Not noting any questions. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing before the City Council. It is closed. Next is Council consideration of proposed resolution number 2021-56. Will the clerk please read proposed resolution number 2021-56 by title?
Resolution number 2021-56, authorizing and approving the Mid-Cities filing number 9 replat C, Lot 1 site development plan.
Is there a motion? Councilmember Lindstedt.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that resolution number 2021-56 be adopted.
Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Law Evans?
Yes.
Lim?
Yes.
Lindstedt?
Yes.
Schaaf?
Yes.
Tessier?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Castriata?
Yes.
Groom?
Yes.
Hinkle?
Yes.
Jezierski?
Sorry, is that you? Yes.
It passes unanimously. I was going to make a comment, Doctor, about tying the knot, but I don't think there's anything I can say that might work out real well. So I will just simply say thank you for your investment. Thank you for your investment, your time, and your practice in Broomfield. And that went pretty easy. I think it's a tribute to your plan and to your local ties. So thank you, Doc. So
thank you so much, Mayor.
okay, so now we'll move on to our final business item, which is council's appointment to fill expiring terms and vacancies on Broomfield's various boards and commissions. You know, as everybody knows, Mayor Pro Tem Castriota spends a lot of time on this, put a lot of effort. I've been told she spent 15 hours listening to videos over the weekend. But anyway, so she's going to facilitate this event. When it comes to business items, I will take over. So Mayor Pro Tem, I'll turn the agenda over to you.
Oh, I was trying to keep that a secret. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to thank all of the citizens who took the time to apply and interview for a position on our boards and commissions. The fact that we have so many interested and qualified citizens is what makes Broomfield a great place to live. If you applied and you're not selected or missed the application period this year, I encourage you to apply again next year, as even calendar years are our main recruitment periods. We have many more vacancies next year, as well as opportunities for other boards and commissions. I would also like to remind you that we're currently recruiting for the Land Use Review Commission and the Neighborhood Board of Adjustment. To learn more, visit broomfield.org/BNC. Applications close at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, March 17th. Tell your friends. For this evening, the procedures regarding the election process to fill the positions on boards and commissions are set forth in Section 6.1 of Council's Procedures and Rules of Order. In accordance with these procedures, the process tonight will be as follows. Nominees will be identified for each position. If the number of nominees does not exceed the number of vacancies, Council will proceed directly with a motion to appoint. If the number of nominees exceeds the number of vacancies, Council will proceed to vote using our electronic voting system. Results of each round will be electronically presented. Following completion of the electronic balloting, a motion to appoint candidates by name will be necessary. I'll ask our acting city and county clerk, Danae Brouillard, if she has any additional information she would like to provide.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Danae Brouillard, Acting City and County Clerk. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for the great summary of the voting process. Council received a link to the voting portal via email earlier today and just around 6:30 as well, so it should be at the top of your inbox. As we prepare for the appointment process to begin in a moment, we ask that you pull it up now. Following a few updates, Kateria Beta, IT Director, will walk Council through the voting process. Additionally, Pat Gilbert, Deputy City and County Attorney, will be assisting and available to answer questions. Staff wanted to take a moment to address youth appointments to Broomfield boards and commissions, as it has come up over the past few days and months. In June 2020, Council added one youth position and one youth alternate position to 4 boards: the Library Board, the Health and Human Services Advisory Board, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, and the Open Space and Trails Advisory Committee. The creation of these positions means that individuals appointed by Council must be between the ages of 14 and 18. Although there are not designated youth positions on the other boards and commissions, youth may be appointed to the open positions except for the following 3 exceptions. 1, quasi-judicial boards and commissions, which includes the Board of Equalization, Local Licensing Authority, the newly and if approved Land Use Review Commission, and the Neighborhood Board of Adjustments. 2, the Historic Landmark Board, due to specific requirements outlined in the Broomfield Municipal Code, and then the Scientific and Cultural Facilities Districts, as they have their own requirements. So before we move on to the voting process, we wanted to see if any council members object to staff preparing a resolution to add these designated youth positions to other boards and commissions. Great. Okay. Staff will begin working on that and get that scheduled and provide an update to council in the future. Thank you for giving us that moment for an update from council. And with that, we'll pass it on to Kateri to walk us through the voting process.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council. We will start off the voting with the 3-year term advisory committee on environmental sustainability. So please click on that link. And the vote is now open. Do you have a nomination?
This
Oh,
was
no,
a test
sorry.
vote.
1 second, sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem, before we start with that voting process, do you want to continue with your script about the nominations of the slate first?
My pleasure. I was wondering about that. Jumped ahead a little bit. We will now proceed with public comment, which I'm looking on the site. It does not look like we have anyone in the queue. And is there anyone who would like to be heard? Press *3, state your first and last name and neighborhood for the record. We'll wait a second. But there's actually no one online, so I think we can move forward. Next is questions from City Council. Next, any council members have any questions? Okay. I have Council Member Jezierski.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I was going to make a nomination, and in order to facilitate the process, similar to what we did last year, I was going to nominate all the applicants on our 2021 boards and commissions master list to their respective boards that they've applied to. So basically, everyone that's applied, I nominate them to their positions, and then it'll eliminate the need to do this on a piecemeal basis.
Is there a second? Councilmember Schaaf?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Did you have a comment as well?
I do.
Do we vote first, Mayor? Do we have to vote on this?
Actually, you don't have to vote on the nominations. The nominations can go without a vote in a second.
Okay, what was your comment, Councilmember Schaaf?
Thank you. I just noticed that there was a test vote in there, and since this is always complicated with being at the dais and all of us there on technology, I'm just wondering if we can do a test, if we can do the test vote, just to ensure that virtually and remotely that we can do the test vote before we move into the actual boards and commissions. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Any objections to a test vote? Seeing none, let's do it.
Great. Kateria Beta, IT Director, will walk us through the test vote.
The test vote is open, so click on that link and select your favorite superhero. And we are waiting for 2 more votes.
I'm experiencing some issues.
And we have the votes in, so I will close the responses.
And I'll go ahead and announce the vote that Wonder Woman has won with 8 votes, followed by Elastigirl with 7 votes.
Anybody want to make a motion to nominate Wonder Woman and Elastigirl for the test vote? No. Okay, we don't have to go that far, I guess.
No, we don't have to go that far.
All right. This is the first time that we're doing it remotely, so if anybody has any, tech issues, just let us know. Figure it out.
Okay, we can continue with the 3-year term advisory committee on environmental sustainability. That vote is open.
And they're voting for 5.
Yes. Voting is closed.
Remove all the zeros, and then we vote with anyone that goes. Okay.
Are we going to see the results put up on the screen somehow?
I don't think so.
We've done that in the past, haven't we? I feel like we have.
Yeah, I agree.
It was easier when we were in the chambers and we had those screens, but there's
Yeah.
no way to push them out to our personal screens. They could share it on the main screen, but I don't know if that's technically possible.
Yep. And
Well, if we voted for one of those other superheroes, we could probably have done it. It's just kind of a joke to fill the void, fill the void, fill in the void.
I think it was understood that this vote was going to be the toughest one of the night, getting down to the 5. So, because you have to get at least 6 votes.
Mayor and council, we're working on displaying the results right now.
Okay.
Things were going smoothly.
Every night's
So
a new night under COVID.
So as we're looking at this, part of the thought process, Councilmember Jezierski, is when you're in council, we only show those that got the high votes and not every single person. So from a public perspective, folks that wanted to, that didn't generate any votes. So we're just trying to be conscientious because the display would not be as filtered as it usually is up on the council screen. So if we show our screen, some of the members that wanted to be on the committee that have 0 votes, we just want to be mindful of that. So if council's direction is we need not be concerned about that, we can share the screen.
Is there time to just type their names really quickly onto a Word document?
Well, Pat, what we're going to do is Pat Gilbert was going to announce them.
Okay,
So what we had agreed to this afternoon, I mean, obviously subject to council's change, we were going to have Pat Gilbert announce the winners, and I suspect on this one there will be a runoff. There might be 2 or 3 winners in the first one, then another vote. And so we were going to have Pat Gilbert just announce, here's the 3 winners, and then here's the people in the runoff.
Okay.
And at this point in time, I'd recommend that we go that way, just simply because I don't.
If you do that, do you mind just mentioning it slowly so that I can cross off? I don't know. I feel like I'm not always an auditory learner. I like to read them too, but just go slow, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so Pat.
On here, first, we have 4 candidates that have gotten a majority vote, so we are moving them forward.
And
Those candidates are Tony Raker, Casey Martin, Aaron Hune, and Darla Arians.
But just point of order,
We're out.
do I go ahead and move that we appoint them before?
No, let's go ahead and get the fifth one and then do the motion.
Thank you.
So, and then what we're doing, just so you know, what we're doing is we're deleting those candidates who received not enough votes to go forward, and then we'll have revote on one candidate.
Okay, Guylaine, since you're going to make the motion, would you repeat the four names that the clerk, because it wasn't, I just think it would help everybody.
The four that were selected were Tony Raker, Casey Martin, Aaron Hune, and Darla Arians.
So how are we determining who makes the second round? Is everybody except for those four going to be available?
No, it's based on the tie votes then. I mean, and once again, I'm assuming that 2 or 3 people had the equal number of votes, and it'll be the top vote getters based on a tie. Correct, Kateri? So if they had 2 people who got 5 votes.
Explain that. They're gonna explain that process right now.
Okay.
So the second vote, we've removed the candidates that got the required votes to move forward. So there's the 4 candidates that we mentioned earlier. And then, so we removed those from the votes, and now when we open up the vote again, you'll refresh your screen and you'll see the remainder of the candidates that you'll select one to fill the 5th seat.
So Councilmember Jezierski's question was, so are all of them back in that pool that were not selected the first go around?
No, not all of them.
So explain that process.
So that those who received the 0 votes were removed.
So if they received 1 vote, they're back in the second pool and the zeros were removed?
Yes.
So if they didn't receive any votes on the first round, they were taken off of the second round, and those that received 1 or more votes are now in the second round.
I don't, pardon, but I don't think that's how it should work. I think that for this next runoff, we cull it down for the no votes because nobody wanted them for the 3-year term. But that doesn't mean that we didn't want them for a 1-year term. So I don't think they should be removed from contention.
Well, they won't be for the next one. They are just trying to get the 5th one.
Next one. Right.
Yeah, they'll all be included in the next one.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
So this is just a 3-year term.
Okay.
Yes, so we've got 1 more to go. Yeah, yes, that's correct, Mayor.
I wonder if this would be a good time to try ranked choice voting. What do you think, Devin?
I was thinking the same thing.
So the voting is now open for the 1 3-year term.
To clarify, there's someone on there that shouldn't be because she was already voted in the first.
Yes.
That was Darla.
Don't vote for Darla.
Because she's already on.
Because she's already on, exactly. I mean, yeah, don't quote me on that.
Please don't vote for Darla. That way we won't have to reclose it and open it again.
Okay. We are waiting on 1 more vote. And the voting is closed.
Actually, I think the idea for the ranked choice voting was good, Mayor. This would have been a good, Devin, you should throw that out there. This would have been a good test run.
Automatic
Yeah, we said it
runoff.
for 2 years.
Because Devin, you need more to do too.
So,
Third time's the charm, Devin. Third time's the charm.
so Pat, apparently there wasn't a clear 6 votes.
No, there weren't.
Okay, so this goes back to what I think we should, so we need to only take the top 2 at this point in time.
We need to take the top 3.
Okay, if they're tied, the top 3. Okay.
If we were doing ranked choice, we'd be done by now, right?
No, we'd be done by November 9th.
Well, we could do this as a ranked choice. I mean, this is just us internally.
I guess I'll just say, because the public, is paying attention, that this is a testament to how many qualified people applied. It was kind of amazing on how many qualified applicants there were for these positions. And we knew that the 3-year terms were going to take a little bit of time. So bear with us. And it is clunky in COVID here. And it's not because of staff, it's because it's just the way it is.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem and council members, we're ready for the 3rd vote. Please select one candidate for the 3-year term. Voting is closed. We have, we don't have a candidate with a majority.
But do you have 2 top ones then?
We have one top one. We have a top candidate with 4 votes.
Okay, then I think we need to go to, and then the other 2 are tied then, I take it?
Correct.
Wow.
Do they need a majority? Or can it just be the top vote getter?
I think we need 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the past, we would have eliminated the lowest one, but that seems to be a problem.
So,
Mayor, do you have a suggestion?
well, I'm going to ask Nancy if she has a suggestion. I'm not sure. I've seen this before where we couldn't get out of the because a tie vote. I mean, it's not a tie vote. So,
Give me a second, Mr. Mayor. Give me a couple minutes. I'm going to check something and see if we can come up with an option.
Wait, go ahead and share that. Back up. So our recommendation at this point is we vote between the 2 candidates who received 3 votes and then re-vote among the 2 candidates. Does that make sense?
Okay, that does make sense.
Okay.
You agree, Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm not clear. I'm sorry.
So we have three people, one that got 4 votes, 2 that got 3 votes. We're going to have a runoff between the 2 that got 3 votes, and then that person will go against the one that got 4 votes, in the final vote. And that makes sense.
Got it.
So this person is we're now voting for who a runoff for the and then we'll have another one. And boy, that ranked choice voting is looking better every minute.
Okay, we're ready. Just a second, sorry. Okay, we're ready for the vote between the 2 candidates who will then be voted on with Robert Pearson, who has moved forward. And we are waiting for one more vote. Thank you. Voting is closed. And we will now have a runoff between Robert Pearson and Brandon Mouch. Yes. And voting is open. Voting is closed. And the last spot for the 3-year term is Brandon Mouch. Since we are doing that orally, here's just a quick update. So the 3-year appointments, 5 total, are Tony Raker, Casey Martin, Aaron Hewen, Darla Arians, and Brandon Mouch.
Okay, then Mayor Pro Tem, I'll call you for a motion.
Well, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. So we'll do all of the ACEs and then we'll do the motion to appoint once we get through the position.
We're gonna do 3-year first, and then we're gonna do we need to go by terms.
That's how this script is. I make a motion now, Danae.
Yeah, Danae, and no, we need to go by terms.
Okay, great, Mayor. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
You drafted.
Yeah, I'm reading your perfect script here. Thank you.
You drafted this script today.
Thank you, Mayor. So I move that Tony Raker, Casey Martin, Aaron Hewen, Darla Arians, and Brandon Mouch be appointed to the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability for 3-year terms or until a successor is appointed.
Is there a second? Councilmember Hinkle?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lim?
Yes.
Lindstedt?
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yep.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
Law Evans.
Yes.
Passed unanimously. Galen, or Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Next are the appointments of the 6 members to serve one-year terms on the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability.
The vote is now open. Please select 6 candidates.
Do we have some tunes?
You know, I was going to bring up that I just read this afternoon that Coors-Field's going to have 21,000 fans. Is that on opening day? Did anybody pick up on that?
I saw that there. Surprised to see it.
Do they have to show proof of their vaccination?
I don't think so. Well, I didn't read the details. I don't see Jason on the line anymore, but or Deb.
So Mayor,
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and announce those candidates that are moving forward who had sufficient votes.
Okay.
Brianna Hallinan, Robert Pearson, Lois Vanderkoy, Ryan Harp, and Taylor Ryman.
And Pat, if there's 2 vote getters that tied, I mean, here's what I mean. You know, so they all got 6. If there's 2 that got 4 or something like that, or 2 that got 5, I think those 2 should be only 2 put forth, rather than trying to put the whole slate again.
We could do that. Technically, under the council rules, you eliminate the lowest vote getter and you redo it, but.
Okay, well, then we'll go with the rules. Okay.
May I ask for a repeat of the ones that are advancing?
Sure.
I wish we had a visual.
Yeah.
Brianna Hallinan, Robert Pearson, Lois Vanderkoy, Ryan Harp, and Taylor Ryman.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll just drop the lowest vote getters and then revote, okay? That's why it's
We're
taking so long.
dropping the voters, we're dropping those who voted 0 or 1, and we're moving the others forward.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, voting is open for the 6th member of the one-year, the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability for the one-year term.
I didn't hear that.
The voting is now open
Oh,
for the
okay.
last
Okay,
one-year term.
I'm sorry.
Voting is now closed. So based on the voting, we'll need to have a runoff. And the runoff will be between Max Kulbiata. Oh, never mind, sorry. Yeah. So we're doing the same thing as we did for the last. We're pulling forward one candidate, but we're having a runoff between two candidates. So Max Kulbiata will be facing the candidate between this next vote, which will be between Nick Martin and Nina Robinson.
So this is a runoff before we actually vote on the last person, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I think I
That is
missed something. Is this a vote for that? Do we have a separate youth position or is this?
Yeah, I was going to say, were we not going to do a youth position for this one?
I'm confused, yeah.
We don't have
Currently,
one.
we don't. Go ahead, Guyleen. I'm sorry. Or Mayor Pro Tem.
No, we don't have a designated youth position for ACES yet. We
I
are
thought we
going to
just
bring.
did. I thought we just declared that.
No, we have to draft an ordinance to create those.
Oh,
It takes
okay.
2 readings, so we can't do that tonight. So we can fill the slot with a youth now.
Yeah.
In the interim. Because it's going to take a while.
Yeah. Okay. So
If we
Does
want.
the youth slot take the place of an adult slot, or is the youth slot in addition?
It's within the 12. There's not an additional spot.
So it
Can
takes
I
the
just
place.
interject though? 2 years ago, we had specifically made 2 youth spots for ACES committee. For some reason, it didn't move forward this year. So it was decided last night that we were going to try to fix that in the upcoming year to make sure we have 2 youth spots for next time. But I highly encourage youth voice on this committee.
I recall the same thing.
Thank you.
So the runoff voting is open.
Councilmember Anderson, did you have a question?
You're muted.
Yes, I do have a question regarding the youth position. So just to clarify, we're doing the ordinance to put the youth positions on, but we won't recruit and appoint somebody for an entire year. Is that correct? There won't be a special recruitment period. It would be like
No,
next
this will take effect next year when we do the full reappointments. This is just a midterm. Well, no, actually, this is ACES, so it's not on the regular schedule. Help.
What was that last part, Eileen?
ACES wasn't in sync with the rest of them because we started it at an odd time, remember? So we're trying to catch it up, but I don't know if it's going to fall into this normal cycle next year. Someone can.
Well, by next year,
yes,
the 2 youth positions will, they'll be,
Okay.
Because we have,
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, Councilmember Tessier.
And just to clarify, so if a youth was appointed this year to this 1-year position, it would be over in 1 year, correct?
That is correct. Most youth positions are just for 1 year because most of them are seniors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This was going to be the longest one. We knew it. The rest, we're going to breeze through it.
You're doing fabulous, Mayor Pro Tem.
The voting is now open for the last position. For the 1-year ACES appointment. Correct.
And this is the runoff.
Correct, Mayor. The winner, if
Goes against
open
Max.
there is one, will get that final 1 year spot.
No, we did the runoff last one. This is the final one.
Oh, we did. This is the final one.
Correct.
I lost track. See, I'm relaxed. Mayor Pro Tem, you're doing such a good job.
The final position for the 1-year term is Max Colbita.
Okay. Okay, then it's time for Mayor Pro Tem. I call upon you to make a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Brianna Hallinan, Robert Pearson, Lois Vanderkoy, Ryan Hart, Taylor Ryman, and Max Colbita be appointed to the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability for 1-year terms or until a successor is appointed.
Is there a second? Councilmember Anderson?
Second.
Will the clerk please, or any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lindstedt?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Lindstedt, it cut out.
Yes.
Thank you. Schaaf?
Yes.
Tessier?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Castriata?
Yes.
Broom? Yes.
Hinkle?
Yes.
Jaworski,
Yes.
Lot Evans,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Guyleen?
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we're going to have the appointment of one alternate member to serve a one-year term on the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability. Next.
thank you for your patience. We're just getting the voting portal ready.
So this is Liz. Danae, are you going to put, I'm looking at the voting page and I don't see a separate entry for that. Am I missing something?
I think she's resetting it.
Okay.
Yes, we will use the 1-year term voting link.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So just to clarify, Council, we'll use the 1-year ACES voting link for the 1-year alternate position, which they are getting ready right now.
Don't stop.
I heard that.
We like the choice. Oh, Stan.
So if the voting is now, never mind. Thank you. I'm not gonna touch that. Do you want me to? I don't have Franco on my Dillon point. Just focusing on Pheasant, right? Okay.
Yeah,
I think
we'll let David, yeah. Good.
I'm having trouble seeing the alternate voting.
You're gonna vote in the one. You're voting in the 1-year one, right?
There's no names in there for me.
Oh.
The voting is not open yet.
Yeah,
They're still
I'm sorry
adding
about
names. So just 1 second, please.
Bunch of type A's.
All right, Stan, cue it up.
All right. I appreciate your patience.
All right.
Voting is now open for the
one year alternate.
Alternate, yeah.
Stan and I have been taking a spring meltdown class at the gym every Tuesday and Thursday morning, so I'm surprised we're able to move at all tonight, Stan.
I think it took me till about 6 o'clock to recover.
You can join me in the boxing class. I've been doing boxing.
Actually, I had a neighbor who mentioned that to me. I don't remember who.
It's a lot of fun.
Is that in the new room at the community center?
Yes.
Ooh, I love that.
Voting is now closed. Voting's now closed, and we are moving forward for a runoff. Chad Fitzer and Nick Martin. Just give me 1 moment to prepare the voting form. Thank you. Excuse me. Okay, and the vote is now open for between Chad Fitzer and Nick Martin. Voting is now closed. So, Mayor, we have a tie between the two candidates, so you would break the tie?
Then go ahead, make a motion, Guylaine, for Chad.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I move that Chad Fitzer be appointed as an alternate member to the Advisory Committee on Environmental Sustainability for a 1-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Is there a second? Councilmember Tessier?
Second.
Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Schaaf,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Dzerzky,
Yes.
La Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt.
Yes.
Okay, it passes unanimously, and so we'll move on to the Broadlands Golf Course Advisory Board. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, next is the Broadlands Golf Course Advisory Board. It includes 3 vacancies. We'll begin with the appointments of the 2 members to serve 1-year terms on the Broadlands Golf Course Advisory Board. So we're first voting on the 2 1-year terms.
Thank you. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. We have a majority for 2 candidates, Francisco Estevez and Raven Duquesne.
Okay, I'll call upon the Mayor Pro Tem for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Francisco Estevez and Raven Duquesne be appointed to the Broadlands Golf Course Advisory Board for one-year terms or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski, Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Next is an appointment of one alternate member to serve a one-year term on the Broadlands Golf Course Advisory Board.
Please refresh your votes, and the voting is now open.
Parts of this is kind of like a Saturday Night Live skit.
And voting is closed. And we have a majority for Steve Russell.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Steve Russell be appointed as an alternate member to the Broadlands Golf Course Advisory Board for a one-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. We are coming upon 8 o'clock. Let's go ahead and take a break till 8:10. And because I think it's going to take us still a little while, and we have some reports later on. So let's go ahead and take the break. We will council reconvene at 8:10 on the dot. So thank you.
The Access Live event is in music hold.
Hey, boys, let's go sneak up on some, see what everybody's up to. We got a break. Oh, I'm seeing it. Listen, listen, no, listen, no, listen. Good God. Got the monkeys around here.
So Doug, at 8:10, go ahead.
Roger that, Mayor. I'll count you down. All right. I got 8:10 coming off music hold in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Music hold ended.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are in the process of voting for our citizens committees. We're going to move on to the Bruner Farmhouse Citizen Advisory Committee. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we're going to begin the appointment of one member to serve a 3-year term on the Bruner Farmhouse Citizen Advisory Committee.
The voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the candidate is Diane Eason.
Mayor Pro Tem. You're muted. You're muted.
My apologies. I'm switching screens. I move that Diane Eason be appointed to the Bruner Farmhouse Citizen Advisory Committee for a 3-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Dzirsky,
Yes.
La Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaaf,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
It passed unanimously. Mayor Pro Tem.
I never muted. Thank you, Mayor. The appointments of 3 members to serve 1-year terms on the Bruner Farmhouse Citizen Advisory Committee are next.
And since there are only 3 remaining candidates,
Yeah.
a vote is not necessary.
True, but we one of the candidates, Brent Phillips, also applied for the Historic Landmark Committee, and that was his first preference. So I don't know if we want to appoint him to 2 boards, but we don't have a lot of applicants for that. We need him. Maybe he can do 2.
I don't think anyone can do 2. I think
Yeah,
we voted.
his name is nomination. I mean, he is in nomination, and so
I know.
I don't know how
I
you
don't
want
know
to
how to
nominate
handle
him.
that. I don't. I know. Putting it out there.
And say what they want on that one? They, go ahead.
Oh, did you want to?
Were you going to make a comment, Pat? Well, I think what's appropriate right now is, go ahead.
Councilmember, City and County Attorney Nancy Rogers will clarify the multiple boards.
Our residents can serve on more than one board. It can be a consideration in your vote to have them be appointed to another board, that they're already on a board, but there's nothing in the code or in the policies governing the boards and committees that preclude it. It has been the practice in the past that staff lets you know if somebody has already been appointed to a board.
Just to clarify, I know we made that a policy a couple years back. You weren't here, Nancy. I'm not sure why that wasn't ever codified. I think we were going to allow exceptions, maybe in a situation like this, but the policy was going to be one per board. We did not want to have more than one person on the board if we could help it.
Well,
and I can definitely understand that policy decision, and we'll keep looking, but the recollection here is it wasn't ever codified.
So let me go to the reality here. The
recall that
reality
this
here right now is that we have
YouTube
three people, three people available for three positions. I don't know how we nominate somebody. And so I would suggest we go ahead and approve this slate, or at least have a vote on it. And then we can address it when we get to that, the historic board. So I'm going to call upon Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Then I move that Mark Bruner, David Oliver, and Brent Phillips be appointed to the Bruner Farmhouse Citizen Advisory Committee for one-year terms or until a successor is appointed.
Is there a second? Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Groom,
Yes.
Point of
Hinkle?
order.
We're already voting. I don't think we'd stop the vote.
All right, sorry.
Okay.
I voted yes.
thank you, Councilmember Hinkle. Jezierski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaaf,
No.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata.
Yes.
It passes 9-1. Councilmember Schaaf, has your point of order become moot?
Yeah, it does for now. Thanks,
Okay.
Mayor.
Okay, so we don't have enough people to appoint a one alternate member, correct? So we're going to skip that part?
Correct.
Okay. So let's move on to the cemetery committee. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we'll begin with the appointment of 2 members to serve 3-year terms on the cemetery committee.
Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. We have 2 candidates for the 2 positions, Corey Lutkamiller and Morgana Meander.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Corey Letkamiller and Morgana Meader be appointed to the cemetery committee for a 3-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaaf,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. And my assumption, if I recall, that Robert Elstead was not named to the ACES committee. And so we should just go ahead and have a motion. Should you go to have a motion to name his as the alternate? You want to go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure, Mayor. I move that Robert Elsad be appointed as an alternate member to the Cemetery Committee for a 1-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier,
Second.
any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Jezierski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Let's move on to the Historic Landmark Board.
Hey, would it make sense to push this one off to the end since there's like really no viable applicants at the moment and wait to see, what we have left?
Yeah, and I think that's one where we do have another person who's going to be nominated for that.
I think that's a good idea.
But let's go ahead. So we'll move on to the we'll move on to the Library Board. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Found it. Okay. We will begin with the appointment of one alternate member to serve a 1-year term on the Library Board.
And if I may note that we do have a youth position that's after this one, but we do have a youth who is qualified to hold the other position as well, so that youth will be included in the voting. And voting is open.
How will they know the youth?
They have that information.
They're in purple.
We're going to do, after we finish voting, Mayor and Council, we're going to do some housekeeping to ensure that we are all on the same page moving forward with regards to serving on only one board and making sure it's codified, and then following up on the youth positions.
Okay.
And anything else that we happen to find as we move through this process. Perhaps ranked choice voting is top of the list.
This evolving process, is that what you meant to say?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Voting is closed. We have a candidate with majority, Carolyn Love.
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, go ahead, make a motion.
I move that Carolyn Love be appointed as an alternate member to the Library Board for a 1-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier,
Second.
any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lindstedt.
Yes.
Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Lim,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. I think we can go ahead, since the next one is the youth board or for the library board. I think we can go ahead and go to the motion stage of this. So
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I move that Aiden Edgar be appointed as nope, wrong one. I move that Aiden Edgar be appointed as a youth alternate member to the library board for a 1-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
Law Evans.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. So now we're going to move on to the Open Space and Trails Advisory Committee. I'm going to make an assumption here because we are evolving here that since Max has been appointed to ACES, that we can go ahead and go to the motion stage, or do we? Yeah, I have everybody sitting on their head. So Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Nathan Kroll be appointed as a youth alternate member to the Open Space Advisory Committee for a 1-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Yep.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Let's go ahead and go to the Personnel Merit Commission. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. The next is Council's review is the Personnel Merit Commission. There is 1 vacancy for this board, and it is an alternate position for a 1-year term.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. We have 1 candidate, Tammy Thomas.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Tammy Thomas be appointed as an alternate member of the Personnel Merit Commission for a 1-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Yep.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Let's go to the Public Art Committee. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it won't be the final one because we're going back to historic landmark, but the next is the 4 positions for public art. We'll begin with the appointment of 3 members to serve 3-year terms.
Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. We have 3 candidates with a majority vote. Those are Christopher Floyd, Matthew Serrata, and David Feynman.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Matthew Serrano, David Feynman, and Christopher Floyd be appointed to the Public Art Committee for 3-year terms or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
La Evans,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Next is the appointment for 1 alternate member to serve a 1-year term on the Public Art Committee.
Sure it's
Voting
gonna
is
take-
now open.
Oh, it is. That was quick.
Didn't hang it up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to ask for clarity. Which one are we voting for? Mine doesn't show anything.
We're just
So I
voting
vote
for
the wrong
an
one.
alternate for
It's
1
the
year.
alternate for the Public Art Committee.
Public Art.
Okay. Let's see if it works. Ah, yes, thank you.
I just want to ask whoever's not muted, we're getting a lot of background chatter, and I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe the
I think
chamber.
that's the council chambers mic.
Yeah, we're picking up conversations.
Okay, voting is now closed.
Here.
We have 1 candidate with a majority vote. That's Alan Orman.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that J. Alan Orman be appointed as an alternate member to the Public Art Committee for a 1-year term until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski,
Yes.
La Evans,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the Historic Landmark Board and
Thank you, Mayor.
yeah.
We have 2 vacancies for this board, including 1 alternate position. We received 1 application for the Historic Landmark Board, which was Brent Phillips, who we already appointed to Cemetery. If council decides to appoint the individual to the Historic Landmark Board, the alternate position will remain vacant unless there are any additional nominations. Are there any additional nominations?
Mayor are you okay?
Councilmember Tessier.
Thank you. I nominate Neil Allaire for the Historic Landmark Board alternate position.
Councilmember Lindstedt.
Second.
Any more nominations?
Can I nominate anybody?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Somebody may be surprised tomorrow morning.
Well, somebody that applied already.
Yeah,
so,
you have to.
Not random.
That wasn't my question.
Oh, okay.
It was anybody.
You can't appoint your cousin Vinny.
I love it. I love it. From the applicant pool. Is that it? We're going to close nominations? Okay. So we have Brent Phillips and Neil Allaire from the floor.
Is this for, and this is for the 3-year term?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, voting is now open. And voting is now closed. The candidate with the majority is Neil Allaire.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Get back there. I move that Neil Allaire be appointed to the Historic Landmark Board for a 3-year term or until a successor is appointed.
Councilmember Tessier. Yeah, Councilmember Tessier. I thought we said something about an alternate. I'm trying to. I lost my. Go ahead, Councilmember Tessier.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Castriata.
Yes.
Groom.
You
Yes.
muted.
Yeah, sorry, had a mute problem.
Hinkle.
Yes.
Jezierski.
Yes.
Law Evans.
Yes.
Lim.
Yes.
Lindstedt.
Yes.
Schaff.
Yes.
Tessier.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. And do we want to go ahead and name Brent as an alternate? And so,
I'm fine with
Councilmember.
appointing him to the alternate as an exception. This
Right,
board does-
and then we can sort it out later, but that was his preferred board, so I'll call upon you to make a motion.
Yeah, and just for people that don't know, this board doesn't meet regularly. They meet on an as-needed basis, so it's not a regular monthly commitment either. So I'll go ahead and make the nomination. I nominate Brent Phillips. It's not in the script, to a 1-year alternate term on the Historic Landmark Board.
Councilmember Tessier,
Second.
any discussion? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Groom.
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezerski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata.
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Jennifer, for some reason, you feel you need some direction?
I just want to make sure that next time we do this, that we're trying not to have it be clunky, of course, but from a policy perspective and making sure that we're all on the same page with regards to solidifying that if it's council's direction, we'll work on incorporating that residents can only serve on one board at a time, and solidify that. And then we pulled up the resolution for the youth, and what we did put in the ordinance was a 2-year term, not a 1-year term. So I'm going to have Danae walk us through what we need to modify, again, because it'll preclude the seniors if it's a 2-year term. But that was the direction, which was why it was codified originally for a 2-year term, and then it morphed in conversation into a 1-year term. So we just want to make sure, and staff is in total agreement. If there is all of the boards that are not, that allow for having a youth representative, but if there's a board that could benefit from it immediately, it really is the sustainability committee. So we are all about that. So Danae, do you want to walk through again, just so everybody's in the same place, we're all on the same page, so that when we do this again, we're moving in the same direction?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll make sure that we get it written down and approved by council so that we have it in writing for the next one. So just to clarify, there are currently youth designated positions on the Health and Human Services Advisory Committee, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, Open Space and Trails Advisory Committee, and the Library Committee. So those are the 4 that were appointed in June of 2020. It was a 1-year youth position and a 1 youth position and a 1 youth alternate position. There were 2 new positions added to the existing composition of those boards, and they were set for 2-year terms after the original appointment to get them in cadence with the rest of the schedule.
So that kind of goes to Councilmember Hinkle's question originally of, are we adding a youth position, or are we keeping the same composition and utilizing the youth in that existing composition? So on those boards that Danae just mentioned, those are added youth positions. I'm assuming that moving forward on sustainability, that it should be added youth positions and not in the same composition. Are we headed in the right direction with that? Yes.
Yes.
We see affirmative head shaking.
I see some people who want to make some comments. Councilmember Tessier.
Yeah, from what I understood when we created the how many positions for ACEs 2 years ago, we included the youth in the 11 slots. So I didn't know if we needed to add. For some reason, it just got lost, but I'm just letting you know what I remember. If people want to add, that will be council's prerogative to do so. But I think 11 members on the committee is kind of nice. I don't know if we need to go to 13, but I'll let others speak.
Councilmember Schaaf.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was thinking about this, and waiting to see how tonight's voting went. Since we did nominate and appoint a youth member, my preference would be to keep that 1 youth member slot as a youth member slot moving forward after that 1 year. So this 1 year, the youth that's currently in that 1 year term will be sunset in a year from now. And so keeping that slot as the youth slot and then adding 1 additional youth alternate slot to the membership that exists at this point. So we would go from 11 to 12. I mean, including those alternates.
Okay, Councilmember Anderson.
I actually appreciate Councilmember Schaaf's suggestion, and I would be good with the total of 12. And I do want to, if there's others that would like to do this, I would like to keep the youth positions as just 1-year positions, because youth schedules change from year to year. And I would not want to preclude a senior from not being able to take a position. So I would appreciate 1-year positions for all youth, just because of the changing schedules. Thank you.
Councilmember Hinkle.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for all the input from everyone here, and I appreciate staff efforts. Danae, you've just done such a wonderful job. I just want to stop and just totally recognize you. You have been like a duck, I'm sure, with your legs just paddling under the water, and you're looking so cool and calm on the top. I don't know how you're doing it. I would be freaking out, but you're doing an amazing job, Danae. Heading back to the youth question, I feel like with our boards, sometimes we know that it's a volunteer role, and sometimes life happens. So on the ACES board, like, we had a few drop off. And so I would really like to have that maintained set of adult positions, and then, add the youth on top of that. Otherwise, I'm concerned about drop off of the adults, and we're left, with a possibility of, a few teens and a few adults. So that's just sort of my take on having those adult positions and keeping those, and then adding on the youth. And especially if we have those subcommittees on ACES, those are really important as well. And we can use all the people power we can get, I feel. So thank you.
Councilmember Lamb.
It was interesting. We happened to have we had an ACES meeting last night. So in general, this discussion occurred with the number of members of the committee and the fact that we did not have the designated youth members that we were voting on, as we thought Councilmember Tessier and I thought had originally been going forward. So there was a diverse opinion, let's say, among the standing ACES members as to whether they would prefer 2 added positions or the youth positions, or 2 youth positions within the existing 11. So in that respect, Councilmember Schaaf's opinion of adding 1 is interesting. It seems like a compromise to what I heard from the ACES members last night. The only thing that I would say is, usually we have odd numbers on the committee if we're voting on something. Is that correct, staff? Is that why we put the odd numbers on the committee?
That is correct, Councilmember Lim.
Okay. In my experience with ACES, they try to form a consensus, and they're not doing raising hands voting on things too much. So I'm not sure that that even number will be a problem, but I just wanted to ask that question.
Okay. Oh, is that enough direction, Manager Hoffman?
Can I ask a few more?
Can we just entertain us just for a moment, and we just have a few more?
Sorry, I just want to make sure I have clear direction from the conversation tonight. I wrote down as things were popping up. So we will prepare a memo to address adding additional positions, and we will do our best to come up with a solution of what that composition looks like, and then council can amend it on the floor that evening to decide if you want to add positions or use the current composition. But we will write a resolution to address that and the term length. We'll address if they could be on 1 board or 2. And then I just want to make sure that when originally approved, youth was defined as age 14 to 18. And I want to just make sure that is still that's the direction council still wants to define the youth moving forward. Okay, I see head shakes.
Not seeing anybody objecting.
Okay, perfect. That is very helpful, and we will work on getting that scheduled and a memo prepared.
Yeah, Councilmember Tessier.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention if we have a youth that's an alternate for ACES being the 12th, they wouldn't vote unless they needed to vote. So I still think it would be an odd number, right? Because the alternates don't vote. Am I correct on that? Yeah.
Okay, good point. Councilmember Schaaf?
Thanks, Mayor. So I just wanted to clarify that last piece of information. When we were looking at youth spots for this round, they were 14 to 17, and then 18 and over was the adult slots. So I just wanted to clarify that because I think I heard you say that youth would be considered 14 to 18.
Yes.
Yes, Councilmember Schaaf, that's a great question. So the 14 to 17, we didn't have any that were in that 18 category. We followed up. It was for a parental consent form. So we implemented the parental consent, which that's where the blur of the lines is a little tricky for staff. So under 18, we had to get parental consent forms, but then 14 to 18 was a defined youth by the code. So we did a lot of follow-up to define the youth based off of that and then highlighted in purple and it fit. But that's where it's not congruent because, right, a minor is under 18 and then 14 to 18 is your definition. So that was why. Yeah, great question.
And most seniors are 18, yeah. So at some point. So Councilmember Lindstedt?
Thank you, Mayor. When would be the most appropriate time for us to maybe change our process to ranked choice voting instead of this current monkey process?
So Councilmember Lindstedt, that's the last. So we have three pieces. We have the first piece, which is a resident can only serve on one board at a time. The second is the clarification with the youth. And then the third would be utilizing ranked choice voting. So regardless of the outcome of ranked choice voting, I think, again, moving through tonight, is kind of a clear example of the expediency with which that can occur when you have multiple residents that are interested, which that's the best thing about tonight. And so although it's clunky, the number of residents that we had engaged was huge. So those are the three pieces that we'll bring back for council to solidify.
Hey, Councilmember Henkel?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I kind of zoned out the last 30 seconds. I'm going to change the subject just a little bit as far as how we vote, and we're voting in alphabetical order, so ACEs and so forth. I'm curious in the future if we could vote on certain committees where we know we have sort of multiple applications and elevate those. I don't know how this might work, so work with me here. But my web brain kind of goes into, I wonder if we have a person who really wants to be on the Historic Landmark Board and we vote on that one first because that's the one they really want to be on, versus they're kind of taken already just because we're going by alphabetical order. So I think in order to serve those who serve us, I think it would be really beneficial if we try to elevate, if we can, because we might start seeing some web action going on between committees and boards, right? But I think if we can do that and we can elevate the ones that are prioritized, I think that would be helpful if we can. I don't know.
Okay. So, I want to close out by, I was one who said clunky, and I didn't mean to diminish the process tonight. I want to specifically say to Danae, who's doing double, triple duty. Her boards and commissions board that she gave us was sensational. So I just want, I guess I'll make the comment that because I wasn't there last year. Guyleen ran it last year, so the 6 years that I was mayor before, this process has improved tremendously since those 6 years. So I just want to clarify the comment for the public. The clunky part was the fact that that we have COVID right now. We're trying to do the best we could do. We couldn't do in-person interviews. Danae and the staff did film people. I guess I just want to do a shout out and I specifically want to call Danae out for the shout out because the board's commissions was great. So whatever I said, Danae, this is better than any process that I've been involved in before. I just want to make sure that's understood. So, Councilmember Tessier, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one thing that was talked about last night at ACES, and that ACES was really excited to hear how many qualified candidates, and they really encourage, for those who might not have gotten on, to still participate. We need your help, and your wisdom and your insights are greatly needed and appreciated. So don't be shy. Join us. It's the second Monday of every month, and from 6 to 8. So they look forward to hearing from you. You can sit in. We've had members who are now on the council, on the commission, who sat in every meeting over the last year, and then she decided to run. So it's just really cool. So don't be shy.
Okay, Councilmember Hinkle.
Sorry, just to piggyback on Councilmember Tessier, or you could just skip over boards and commissions and run for city council like I did. You don't want me on the commissions and boards, I'm gonna run for city council. But in all seriousness, I really think it's important to really, engage, like Councilmember Tessier said, and just attend the meetings. And then on top of that, we're gonna receive a lot of applications next year as well. So, and that is really gonna be important if you're engaged throughout the year. We're gonna have a lot more openings next year. So thank you all for applying, I really appreciate it.
Okay, then we're going to move on to the city and county attorney's report. Ms. Rogers, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I want to give you a brief update on the Dillon Point project. As you'll recall, on January 26th, Council held a public hearing on the Dillon Point project. Following that hearing, the Dillon Point plans were approved along with resolutions approving an amendment to the Aspen Creek Metro District Service Plan, a utility easement, and an MOU on obtainable housing. A resolution to approve an intergovernmental agreement between Broomfield and the Aspen Creek Metro District failed because it didn't meet the 2/3 required vote of council. Also, there is an ordinance that was authorizing a vested rights agreement. That ordinance passed on first reading. It's coming back for second reading in a public hearing next week on March 16th. I want to make sure that you know that the IGA and the vested rights agreements are not determinative of whether or not the Dillon Point project goes forward. Our understanding is, following the votes on January 26th, the Dillon Point project is moving forward. The vested rights agreement, under the code, vested rights automatically last 3 years, unless there's an agreement extending those vested rights. That is also something in state statute. In this case, the request is for vested rights that will go for 10 years because the development is anticipated to occur in phases over 10 years. That's coming back for second reading next week. On the IGA, staff is actually going to bring back the IGAs for council's consideration. That's an intergovernmental agreement between Broomfield and the Aspen Creek Metro District. The 2018 service plan contemplated this IGA between the district and Broomfield, and staff believes there are benefits to the IGA for Broomfield. The IGA allows for oversight and accountability by Broomfield regarding the district's rights and obligations. So we expect to bring that back for council's consideration in June. And that's all for my update, Mr. Mayor, unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I'll go to council. Do you have any questions or comments on the report? Councilmember Lim.
While we're on the subject of Dillon Point, could the staff explain the procedure? We had a lot of questions from residents as to how the additional traffic light that was part of an amendment to the passage of those ordinances is going forward under staff review.
Yes, Councilman, thank you. So if I understand the question right, the neighbors were concerned about the placement, the traffic problems, and the increased light. So right now, the traffic light will need to be installed regardless of whether or not there are those concerns because of how it was passed by council. It's not going to be based on a traffic study completed for the development, which is typically done and then reviewed, of course, by the Broomfield traffic engineer. A traffic signal had not been included in the original plans because the traffic study prepared by the developer and reviewed by Broomfield Traffic Engineering determined, a warrant had not been met, a warrant for the light, and is not anticipated to be met in the future. Broomfield uses the manual uniform traffic code device warrant criteria to make these determinations. This is best engineering practices. Usually installing a traffic control device contrary to this process can create a safety risk. Did that hit on your question, Councilmember Lim?
Yes, and just to clarify that there's, even though the traffic study did not determine that there was a traffic light needed, we will be going forward with that traffic light. And and is it true that there's nothing that residents can do further to object to that traffic light?
At this point today, yes, the traffic light will be installed. We can revisit whether there is an action that council could take to revisit this issue. I think it would be an action by council that would need to undo the traffic light.
Yep. Okay. Is that all, Councilmember Lim?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So that concludes the attorney's report. Let's go to City Manager Hoffman.
Thank you. I just wanted to provide council an update on our DEAI work that we have been, what we're doing and next steps. We're going to, the organizational equity assessment has been completed. That's what we've been doing for the last 2.5 months, which is really the critical first step in the journey as we move forward on all things DEAI. And part of the equity assessment, we're going to send an email tomorrow with the details, but I just wanted to give you a precursor so that when you get that email tomorrow, you have this additional information, and also it allows the public to know that the work that we're moving forward with DEAI. So some of the key takeaways, the employee engagement, more than 400 employees participated in the 12 confidential listening sessions and the online anonymous survey. And as we know, developing an equity statement is critical for Broomfield, and that will be one of the outcome and takeaways. We've also identified potentially unnecessary hiring requirements that are limiting our applicant pool. We can provide specifics a little bit later, but it had to do with a sight impaired person that brought it to our attention. So there's a lot of those that as we have as we look through a different filter, our vernacular changes, our awareness changes, our thoughtfulness changes, so that we do continue to come from a place of curiosity and not judgment. And that is really something that as we move forward with this work, will be of benefit for all of us. Additionally, a key takeaway, the representation of communities of color lacking on our social media, on our websites, on the translation services. We're really excited to share with council and the community the additional work that we've been doing with outreach, and not just outreach from the local government perspective, but our community is active and engaged and energized on many fronts. And we will do I don't want to say a better job, but a better job of really sharing with council and the community what those efforts are that involve us as partners, but also we all know that grassroots efforts is what makes work sustainable. and not having it be generated from the government perspective. So the work we're doing now is internal to staff to bring awareness to where we are, what we do, what that outreach and engagement looks like. The survey highlighted two different realities for our Black, Indigenous, people of color, our BIPOC community, and our white staff. The overall respondents were encouraged and agree, and this was a positive takeaway, that all of the respondents are encouraged and agree that CCOB is open to continuous improvement. How that fits into the DEAI is where the work needs to begin. So the keys from the listening session, the lack of resources, translation services, and the acknowledgement and connection with Broomfield's ethnic communities was really highlighted, again, across the board. Lack of trust and leadership, that DEAI will continue to be a priority and continue to move forward. Folks are thinking this is a kind of a check the box and are really eager to see what comes next in order to make this work sustainable. Interestingly enough, staff raised from the BIPOC community as well as the other individuals, they raised the feelings that the title of Broomfield Way, what that connotation meant to them. And that was an aha moment for me and for the group. So we will continue to explore the feelings that that title invokes in our employees across the board. And the overall lack of diversity among staff and microaggressions. So those are terms that, for those that are not familiar with them, those are terms that we will begin to explore. So that's a great segue into the what happens next. Again, it's an affirmation and dedication to this work from staff and in the community. Training for all, leadership, which includes council, expanded outreach to the community, alignment for our departments for continued improvement. And from a staff perspective, we are grateful, and it says a lot that council approved this funding for this critical work. And you'll see a memo coming up on April 6th on the council agenda that outlines what phase 2 is, how we will be expending those funds that you've already approved for this council priority. And know that, so although we started with staff, it really is council identifying this as a priority that is the first critical step in communicating to this council and our staff, and thus the community, that this work is key. It's key for who we are as individuals, and really taking that self-inventory is where it starts. So the next phase with our consultants is getting the basic leveled training, so we understand that words do matter, really understanding what a microaggression is, understanding individuals' filter that they have experienced, and that's what they come to work with. So we will be providing a timeline for council, the key takeaways, and those action items when we come back to you on the 6th for what that phase 2 looks like. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on Jennifer's report? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do appreciate the thoughtfulness that you guys are applying to the process. It's really important work, and I know it's crucial, but it's hard. So I just want to applaud you guys for taking this first step, and I appreciate the update. I look forward to learning more and seeing how the training unfolds. Thank you.
Councilmember Tessier.
Words right out of my mouth, Mayor Pro Tem. So yeah, ditto. I'm really excited to hear the update Keep up the great work. Thanks, Vanessa, for just leading the charge here. Really appreciate it.
Councilmember Hinkle.
Thank you. And thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate you letting us know just, sort of surface level and what that looks like, and that's letting us know the words that are kind of coming to the top as far as, maybe things that are triggering for some and might just have different meaning for different people. And I just really appreciate that. The one thing I just wanted to ask is maybe just off the top of your head, how you feel about this as far as what are we going to be measuring like quantitatively versus qualitatively? So when I look at diversity, inclusion, access, a lot of our applicants for our boards were really appreciative of the question. A lot of them said, I really appreciate this question. And so I would love to see, but everyone had a different answer. It was really interesting. And it was just really interesting on what it meant to them. So just hearing the applicants, it was interesting. But I got a lot of qualitative answers, which is fine too. It's hard to kind of measure diversity at times or, equity, but I'm just curious as to what's running through your head with this and what can we measure? What is measurable?
So demographics are easily measured. It's really so we have the demographics from the community perspective as well as from a staff perspective. So when we're talking about next steps, we're not even to the qualitative components yet, right? That's why the training is so key. And council's training will be with staff. We're not going to have a separate council-only training. In fact, we met today for about 2 hours on really the guidance to be able to say, because when you go through this training, you don't have a title. I'm not the city manager in this training. You all are not council members in that. You are human beings that are participating in a journey. And so again, the quantitative will come after we understand the basics. And it also comes with when we are opening our ears and our hearts and our minds, embracing this work. There's a lot of this already occurring in the community, and our group that is being led from core components that are staff and community when we were doing our outreach and engagement for COVID, and also from our census. So again, when I say that the activation is there, we'll be able to measure third quarter impacts. So again, really having a laser focus on that timeline so that it's methodical, it's thoughtful. We have plenty of feedback sessions. That's one of the things that rolling the survey out, we wanted to be able to not just provide the information and then have a 2-week gap, right? Because some of this information, it's emotional. And going through it is you have to have time to digest it. So long story long, Councilmember Hinkle, when we're all kind of set in order to then begin to understand what the work it is that we need to do, that's where the measurements come in place. But for the next 5 months, it's all about the training, creating a safe space, understanding who's in our community, and for us internally, it's not just from a staff perspective. We are prepared to do the quantitative pieces because we're looking at our policies, hiring, recruiting, pay, equity. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit that can be immediately acknowledged and addressed. So from a community as a whole, we're still in the training component, but from a policy perspective, Pat Gilbert sits on the team, Vanessa's entire really rock star team, but all of our departments are very engaged in this DEAI work and how it impacts all of us, not from a training perspective, but really how we look at things as we look for that next employee, what our onboarding looks like. All of those components will be included in this plan.
That's great to hear. And just as you're talking and I'm listening to what you're saying, I can appreciate that constant feedback loop. That's going to be very important. What are we learning? What are we missing? And people are going to want to know, where am I in this situation? Just because I try to understand something, does that take away from who I am? It's like this space, who am I in this situation? And I often wonder too, I had to explain to someone because they said, well, why does our BIPOC community need vaccines, earlier than me, And so I had to explain actually quantitatively what's been happening to our BIPOC communities and that they are adversely affected in different ways. And I explained it with numbers. So I even think that's a teaching tool to teach numerically as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the quantitative and the qualitative kind of intermix and what we get out of that. And it'll be interesting. I'm excited about it. Thank you.
I just want to add just one thing just really quickly, Councilmember Hinkle, and that is we had our sustainability check-in today, and it's really exciting to see all of our departments having at the top of their list the equity, the access, the diversity, and the inclusion conversations be fully integrated into what their strategic plans are. So the work that we've been doing, the conversations that we are doing, we're seeing the fruits of our labor on that equity piece, particularly with sustainability and what our goals are. That's already starting to really be deeply integrated. We'll see it with transportation. We'll see it with housing. We'll see it in our human resources department, just across the board.
Kate? So that concludes your report, Jennifer?
It does, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to legislative update. And I understand we have an update this evening.
We do, Danae?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Danae Brilliard, City Manager's Office. Staff wanted to take an opportunity to update council on the legislative session this far. The 2021 legislative session of the Colorado Assembly is well underway after taking a month off following formal convening on January 13th. As of yesterday, there have been 410 bills introduced, and we are excited to share with council that the Broomfield 2021 legislative matrix, which is linked in the memo, is starting to be updated. We wanted to note that the matrix is not complete as bills continue to be introduced, but staff will continue to add bills to keep the matrix relevant and updated. The link will be provided in the weekly update to keep council informed throughout the session, in addition to the weekly legislative updates. If council has any questions or needs assistance with using the matrix, please let us know. We are happy to help. While we are not tracking every bill, we are prioritizing, digesting, and following bills that align with council's adopted priorities and the 2021 legislative policy statements. The front-end adoption of the policy statements has allowed staff the ability to be more swift in response and intentional in tracking. If and when staff identifies an item where a position is needed that aligns with the adopted policy statements, staff will notify council via email with a timeline for objections, as we have already done. An example of this, where it has been successful, includes the advocacy letter that was sent to Governor Polis in partnership with the Consortium of Cities on Housing. Additionally, council passed a resolution in support of House Bill 1071 concerning the use of ranked choice voting in nonpartisan elections, and we wanted to update council that staff has notified the bill sponsors and others as outlined in council's procedures. We will continue to track, process, and share legislative updates with council, and we really appreciate the collaboration as we navigate this new process. And that concludes the staff report.
Go to any questions or comments from council? I'm not noting any at this point in time. So, because we're early on, right? So we'll all be enthused as the next month or two goes on. So I'll go ahead and move on to The urban renewal, there is no business before the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority or the Arista Local Improvement District Board of Directors, and there are no special reports for requests for future action. That includes the items on this evening's agenda. Is there any other business to come before the council? Not seen any. There being no further business, the council meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good job, guys.